anything that happens in the world happens for a reason. The world is a stage. Nothing happens just by accident. So also the coming up of Looksmaxxing isn't by accident. It's been a long time since I've made a YouTube video. I had some personal issues that I had to fix first, but now I am back. And I have a subject today that I wanted to talk about, and that is Looksmaxxing. There are a lot of people currently that are criticizing Looksmaxxing, who are saying that this is stupid, you know, to care about your looks that much and all of that kind of shit, okay? And I have a very different opinion on this that I would really like to share. So I think Looksmaxxing is good for a lot of people. You know, there are a lot of people that have been malnourished in their childhood and teenage years, and they, you know, maybe are a 3, a 4, or a 5 on the looks scale, you know? And I think for those kind of people, it is really, really good to do this, because it's the only way to find love eventually for them. You know, if you are like a really, really bad looking dude, or woman also, but especially a bad looking dude, mainly speaking for men right now, it is almost impossible to find a woman. You know, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter how much status you have. When you're bad looking or you're really short, it's just simply most of the time not gonna happen. You know, there are those documentaries where they showed that, you know, there was like a 5'2" guy, and it doesn't matter what they did to him. They said he made millions. They said that he was a doctor. They said he had a ski resort or some shit like this, right? It didn't matter what they gave him, what kind of status they gave him. No woman wanted him because he was 5'2", and he wasn't even bad looking. So that is pretty fucked. So for some people, it is really good to maybe, you know, grow out their hair, grow thicker eyebrows, grow a beard. Maybe, depending on what kind of woman you want to attract, maybe shave. You know, take care of yourself, trim, whatever, you know, have a better diet to have better skin and so on, all these kind of things. That is why I believe this is actually a good thing. Like for those kind of people, like the 3, 4s and 5s, that is a good thing. Here's the thing though. Most people right now criticize, you know, people wearing makeup and bone smashing and those kind of things. And I think I can agree with that. I think a lot of that is a little weird and so on. Some of it does work. It does simply work, I'm not gonna lie. But, you know, I guess I understand where people are coming from. But those people who are criticizing this shit anyways, they're just criticizing it because it's a trend right now and because they want to make views. And they don't want to provide any value to anybody. They just want to bank off of something that is currently relevant because of people like Clavicular and so on. Here's the thing I'm actually going to criticize now. I just said, you know, I think Looksmaxxing in general is a good thing. Here's the thing. What is bad about Looksmaxxing is that, you know, people who would have, in general, a good chance in the dating market. So for example, you are a 5.5, a 6, maybe even a 7. You're like a top 20%, maybe even a top 5% male, looks-wise, height-wise, everything, you know? Even those kind of people, they watch, you know, like those kind of black pill or Looksmaxxing edits, right? They watch those, you know, I don't know what they're called, like PSL God edits, you know, top 10 European PSL gods of all time or some shit like this, right? And then they see all those beautiful faces, you know, which is kind of gay, but whatever. They see all of those beautiful male faces, and then they're like, damn, man, I don't look like this, bro. I gotta, you know, ascend. I have to look like this. And only once I look like this, I can actually talk to women, right? Because there's usually this comparison between, you know, a sub 5 or a 5 out of 10 male compared to like the reaction they get compared to you know, a PSL god, really good looking dude, right? So these motherfuckers are thinking to themselves, well, I'm not as good looking as the PSL god, the very good looking dude. So before talking to women, I actually gotta be as attractive as that person, right? And that's, I think, where the problem lies, I would say. Because if you have these, you know, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 dudes who would in theory have a lot of success in the dating market, if you just like, it's almost like brainwashing, you know? You tell those dudes through these videos subconsciously that they're not good looking enough, so they don't actually go for women anymore. You know, and I think that's a huge problem. Because, you know, when let's say you're a 6, okay? I think a 6 is like top 20% men or something like that. You like 1 out of 5 people, like you're better, out of 5 people, you're the best looking, basically. There are a lot of people who fit in this because it's like not that hard, right? But especially if you just take care of yourself. Like if you're one of those guys and you constantly watch Black Pill and Looksmaxxing edits, like you're not gonna talk to women because there's like this cognitive dissonance, you know? You constantly see like these very good looking dudes talking to women that you are attractive to, or getting attention from women you are attractive to, but you're not as good looking as them. So you're like, oh, well, I gotta be as good looking as them to talk to them. And I think that's a huge problem. And it causes insecurities, you know, because you constantly compare yourself. A good comparison, a good example I can give you is when I was in the best shape, basically like body-wise, you know, when I was into, you know, fitness and bodybuilding, I always compared myself, since I was a natural, I always compared myself to the greatest natural physiques. And not the physiques right now because they're all on steroids, but like people who couldn't have been on steroids, like bronze era and silver era bodybuilders. And they were huge and had crazy bodies, right? And I would always compare myself to them, you know? But I didn't understand, like they had better genetics, they had better, you know, wider clavicles, like less wide hips. They also had, you know, you could say better food quality, and they trained for a longer period of time, but I still always compared myself to them. And so I always felt insecure about my body. I always felt like I'm not big enough, I don't have enough muscles, my shoulders are not wide enough, all that kind of shit. Now looking back at it, like looking back at those pictures now, I'm like, damn, I was really big and I was really strong and so on. But in the time I always compared myself, where I always compared myself to those people, I never felt big, I never felt strong. So it's always like, who do you compare yourself with, right? Do you compare yourself to the average person and you base that, or do you compare yourself to how you looked like, you know, a year ago, 6 months ago? But if you constantly compare yourself to the greatest example ever, but let's go back to the Black Pill and to Looksmaxxing. If you constantly compare yourself to, you know, fucking models, you know, Shauna Pry, Jordan Barrett, like all those motherfuckers, Chico, like, you're gonna feel insecure. Like no shit, you're gonna feel insecure. Being insecure will just lead into you not being, you know, you just not talking to women. And here's the thing, I think this is a psyop, because anything that gets big has some sort of higher meaning. And we're getting into conspiracy now, but I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna, you know, spill some thoughts here. So I think anything that happens in the world happens for a reason. The world is a stage. Nothing happens just by accident. So also the coming up of Looksmaxxing isn't by accident. In my opinion, since I just pointed that out, like 5s, 6s and 7s, the people who are actually could have success in the dating market, they do have less success now because they talk to less women, because they're insecure now. And I think this is the goal of Looksmaxxing, essentially. I think it's not to actually ascend people. I think it is actually to make people insecure. You know, we all know who owns certain media companies. We all know who owns YouTube. You know, maybe this video gets deleted, I don't know. But we all know who owns YouTube, who owns Instagram, who owns all the shit. People with, you know, longer noses and tiny heads. And I think that, you know, they have made or created Looksmaxxing, or at least pushed Looksmaxxing in the way it is pushed now currently with people like Clivicular, for this particular reason of people, attractive people, not being able to procreate or not wanting to procreate because they are insecure, because they have watched all those edits. Maybe I'm just completely delusional right now, but I think this is the end goal of Looksmaxxing. And again, the message of Looksmaxxing in general I think is good, but the Black Pill edits and all those kind of shit that is gonna make you feel worse, certainly not a good thing to consume. If you have Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and you have like, I don't know, what are those channels called? PSL God Mindset and, you know, European Excellence. And those are channels I just remember right now. Like, if you have those channels, please block them. Like, actually, they are not helping you. They are not helping you in any way. The only way to actually be better looking is to groom correctly and to eat better food. Those are the only things you need to do. The only things you need to do. You don't need any motivation, you just need to do those two things. And since you don't need any motivation, you don't need to look at any of those channels, because they are gonna make you feel so bad about yourself. I beg you, I really do, please do not watch those channels, because they are gonna stop you from actually chasing that woman. Let's say you have a woman or a girl, whatever, how old you are, in your class, and you think she's really beautiful, you know, and maybe she thinks that you are beautiful as well, but you constantly are like on TikTok scrolling, you know, looking at these black pill edits, and you're like, oh, I'm too ugly, I can't talk to her. And in the corner, she's like, man, when is he ever gonna talk to me? I think he's really attractive. Please just talk to me. And you're idiot are here like, oh, I'm never gonna talk to her because I'm so unattractive. Dude, fucking talk. Actually, just go for it, bro. Just don't let any of those dumb edits stop you, bro. Try to ascend as much as you can, but don't watch any of those stupid videos. I don't know if I'm gonna upload this video. Maybe it gets deleted, I have no clue. This was my first video in quite a long time. I must say I'm very happy to be back. And I hope you guys are excited as well. I hope you learned something. Unfollow those fucking channels, please.